First of all, climate change can have impacts on key ecosystems such as coral reefs, seagrass beds, and mangroves. In terms of coral reefs, climate change impacts include mass bleaching event, which is linked to elevated sea surface temperature. Corals have a threshold level in terms of tolerance to temperature. Once the temperature of the water becomes higher than 30 degrees, and that's the maximum summertime temperature. Once it becomes above that, and it's prolonged, coral undergoes a process called bleaching. And bleaching is essentially a process where the coral expels its symbiotic algae. Coral is an animal, but they have within their tissue an algae, a plant that plant goes through the whole process of photosynthesis, and they need sunlight energy to make food. And so in that process, they provide corals with 90% of the food that they need. So when the corals undergo bleaching and it expels the algae, and the situation is prolonged, they can essentially starve because the major food source has been lost. So that's a major impact, mass bleaching event. So one impact is bleaching. The other threat is the impact from hurricanes. As you know, temperature drives hurricane, and Belize is already vulnerable to hurricanes because we exist in the late season hurricane belts for the Caribbean or the Western Atlantic, no? So we are always subjected to late season storms coming through, and so that have its own associated impact. You have the impact from the higher wave swells, which knocks against the reef. It causes the corals to topple over, or causes corals, certain corals to break off. And so it's sort of like even if it's a short period of time, it sort of like reduces the integrity of the ecosystem for a bit, related to the torrential rains associated with storms, which causes major runoff from land, and then you have like agricultural pollutants and other land-based side of pollutants coming into the marine environment, which smothers seagrass beds, which smothers the corals. So sometimes you have the interplay of these two things together, which can cause major stress on corals.
One area of great concern is our barrier reef, or our reef ecosystem. This is and it's of concern from many viewpoints. Yes, because of the large variety of biodiversity that it hosts, but also because of the large amount of economic activity that is tied to it. Our reef system supports our national fisheries. You have in excess of 8,000 artisanal fishermen registered as being users of this resource base. Our barrier reef system is also at the center of our tourism package.
So one other thing that we want to work towards is to see how best we can work with the government permitting agencies responsible for marine management, in particular the Fisheries Department, to see how we can reduce the pressure, the human pressure on the reefs during the time of bleaching events, so that they'll be able to rebound quicker. They won't have that synergistic, perturbation going on.
Looking at the effects of climate change on such a system, but also in isolating the non-climate change or the anthropogenic impacts, because while as a country we cannot really control what climate change will do to the reef system, one of the strategies that is being employed as it relates then to the adaptation of that system and the resilience of that system is then to try to remove the other things that we do have control over, limiting the stresses on the natural system.